Hello, everybody! I'm back again today to officially make my NASCAR Cup Series playoff predictions. Now, we got the tier list maker here, and I'm going to go from the round of 16 to the round of 12 to the round of 8 to the championship 4 and eliminate 4 drivers each round. I'm going to explain my reasoning each time I eliminate of why I'm eliminating or why I'm moving somebody on. And, this seems pretty simple. Um, we're going to predict who I think is going to make it all the way to the championship. And then when I get the championship 4 down, whoever I move it into that first spot, which is going to be right here, is whoever I think is going to win the championship this year. So, without further ado, let's get started. Now, we got to look at the round of 16 racetracks. The racetracks we have on the schedule are Darlington, Kansas, and Bristol. And those three tracks, I immediately have to go out and move William Byron in. William Byron's won on two of those three. Wait, no, one of those three tracks at Darlington, but has run really well in the other two as well. So I'm gonna go with William Byron to guarantee move on, especially since he's the first seed. I'm also gonna move on with the regular season championship, Martin Truex Jr. I think he has just absolutely flipped the script. He has actually led the most laps at Darlington in the next gen era. The only downside for him is he's not finished a race yet at Darlington in the next gen era. So that'll be interesting to see if he can break that streak tomorrow at Darlington. Now, next we have Denny Hamlin to look at. I'll move him on. Now, I'm going to move on a couple other guys that I feel like should be safe this round. I'm going to move on Kyle Larson. I feel like he has a ton of speed, especially at these racetracks. He almost won Darlington this past year if it wasn't for Chastain. Finished second at Kansas, would have won it. Maybe wouldn't have won it, but he got hit by Hamlin. And then at Bristol last year was extremely fast. Won this same exact race 2 years ago. So I'm going to move him on. I'm also going to move on Christopher Bell. Now, I know Bell has not, he's only, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure he's only had one top 5 since his Bristol dirt win in the spring. However, the short track package for the JTG cars have been really good. Joe Gibbs Racing has been on top of it. I said JTG. Wow. Joe Gibbs Racing, JGR, has been really fast on the short track. I'm going to move on Bell. I'm also going to move on Chris Buescher. I think he is hitting his momentum stride at the correct time, and I think it's going to really help him move on into the round of 12. Now, still got a lot of guys to keep moving on here. So, let me do a couple eliminations real quick. I'm going to eliminate Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And that mainly is just because, while he has had a lot more consistent season, the playoffs are a different beast, and I don't think JTG Daughtery Racing are exactly ready for this type of thing, and I think it's going to come back and bite them. I'm going to eliminate Ricky Stenhouse in round 1. I'm also, for some people this might be a complete crazy thing to say, but I'm going to eliminate Ryan Blaney. There's always one guy every single year that is a shock elimination, and I'm going with Ryan Blaney this year to be that shock elimination. I'm just going to be honest. Ever since his Coke 600 to win that 12 car has not shown a lot of speed, and to be fair, I don't really trust it. I'm gonna say that Ryan Blaney's not gonna be able to make it out of this first round. He has not particularly ran well at these tracks either in these past couple of years. I'm gonna have to eliminate Ryan Blaney here in the first round. Now let's get back to moving some people on. I'm gonna move on Kyle Busch. Again, he was so good last year at Darlington. If it wasn't for the engine failing on him at the with like 20 to go, something like that, and then he has speed at Kansas, and he has a ton of speed at Bristol. It's been a while since he's shown that speed at Bristol, but man, that 8 car can still fly. Now, I'm also going to move on Brad Keselowski. I think RFK is in for a good season as a bounce-back year. They've had a great resurrection. I think it's going to be enough to at least get Brad K through the first round. I'm also going to move on Ross Chastain. While he hasn't shown a lot of speed recently, I do think he's going to get some momentum going, and I think it's going to be enough to get him through this first round. I don't know about the round of 12, though. That's going to be a little iffy when we talk about these next round. Now, I'm also going to have to say I'm going to move on the defending champ, Joey Logano. I just have to say, you can't eliminate both Penske cars in one round, and I'm going to say that Logano's too good of a driver to get eliminated round 1. At least that's what I'm thinking. I'm going to say Logano should be safe from the first round exit. Then we had 2 drivers left to move on and 2 drivers left to eliminate. So, let me move on to one of these guys. And this might be a shock. I'm going to move on Bubba Wallace to the next round. I think Bubba has had a huge season in terms of getting things figured out and showing speed. And then I also look at the tracks that we're hitting. Darlington, he wasn't great at in the spring, but he showed promise. Kansas, he shows a ton of speed on these mile and a halves, and he won this race a year ago. So that's a huge promise for Bubba Wallace. And if he can do well those first 2 tracks, I do have a lot of faith in them to run good at Bristol, at least better than the other guy I'm about to eliminate. So I'm going to move on Bubba Wallace. So who is the last guy? I have Reddick, McDowell, and Harvick. Who's the last guy I'm going to move on, and who's the guy I'm going to eliminate? Who's the 2 guys I'm going to eliminate? I'll tell you right now. I'm eliminating Michael McDowell. While I love his comeback story, and I love his win at Indy Road Course, and the fact that he's made the playoffs and everything, and Front Row Motorsports is back, I don't think they're back enough to get through this first round. Now, it's between Reddick and Harvick. Reddick, Harvick. I already know who I'm moving on. I'm moving on Kevin Harvick. I think Kevin Harvick in his final season will at least get through the round of 16. I do think Harvick he doesn't have a ton of speed at SHR. He still has a ton of talent, and I know for a fact SHR is going to be putting all of their resources into this 4-car, and I think it's going to be a huge help. I'm going to say Kevin Harvick moves on to the round of 12. So that eliminates Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and Michael McDowell. And why you guys may be asking, why is Tyler Reddick eliminated? I'm going to be honest. I almost feel like that 45 team is more inconsistent than the 23 team. The 23 team has shown speed consistently, has found their ways, and figured things out. While I feel like sometimes the 45, while both pit crews have been terrible as well, I feel like the 45's team is just hurting Reddick more and more than Bubba Wallace's team is hurting him. So I'm going to move on Bubba. I'm going to eliminate Reddick. So, round of 12 time. Now, the round of 12 consists of, if I'm not mistaken, Texas, Talladega, and the Roval. Yeah, that's exactly what it consists of. Texas, Talladega, and the Roval. So, when it comes down to those 3 tracks, this is the round, in my opinion, which I like to call the round of chaos. Texas, we saw last year, is just unpredictable. We had people blowing tires after only running 20 laps on them. People just kept running into issues. Then Talladega, it's Talladega. And then the Charlotte Roval is the Charlotte Roval. Those 2 tracks are one of the most chaos-ridden tracks based off of their type of tracks. As in, I think Talladega is more crazy than Atlanta and Daytona when it comes to super speedways, and I think the Roval's the craziest of all the road courses we have on the schedule. So, who am I going to move on into the round of 8 to get through this round? Well, let's start with, again, I'm going to move on Byron and Truex. I think those 2 guys, in my opinion, do have the most consistent speed out of everybody in this round right here, and I trust them both to make it out of this round. Now, when I look at the tracks on this round, Texas, Talladega, the Roval, who do I like with those 3 racetracks? Well, I do know one guy I really like, mainly because there is a super speedway in there, and because of how he has been running on everything this year, and just his consistency, I am going to have to move on Denny Hamlin. So the top 3 guys are moving on. Denny Hamlin's been one of the best super speedway drivers in his career. Though he hasn't been great in the next gen, I think he can bounce back. He loves that Talladega playoff race. We've seen him do really well in it multiple times. I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin to get through that race. Now, who else am I going to have to say I'm going to move on? I got 4 drivers left and 4 more drivers to eliminate. No, 5 more. I misspoke there. I thought I moved in an extra driver. Let me just move on Christopher Bell like I think he's going to make it. Yeah. Bell's going to make it. I'm going to have all Joe Gibbs Racing cars that are in the playoffs into the round of 8. Bell shows a lot of consistency. He won the Charlotte Roval race last year. He is extremely good at Talladega, and I feel like he can figure his way around Texas. Now, 4 drivers left, 4 spots left. Who am I going to eliminate? Well, let me eliminate one of these guys right now. I'm going to say it's the end of the line for Ross Chastain. Team Trackhouse is just not showing enough speed this year for me to be entertained by them to make it past the round of 12 this year. Well, I think it's going to be helpful that they're putting in a ton of resources into Ross Chastain into the playoffs because Suarez did not make it. I don't think it's going to be enough. Chastain has honestly really disappointed me ever since his Nashville win. So I'm going to say Ross Chastain is out. Now, I'm going to eliminate one more driver, and this one I don't think is a huge stock. And while he's good at super speedways, I feel like he struggles on these other two type of tracks recently. I'm going to eliminate Brad Keselowski. And while Texas is Texas and Talladega is Talladega, I think it's going to come down to the Roval on points if Keselowski, especially if Keselowski can't win a race. And Keselowski runs terrible on road courses in the next gen car. I'm going to eliminate Brad K from the playoffs here, and it really does suck to say that. Now, who else am I going to move on? I am going to move on Kyle Larson. I feel like he's going to have enough to make it to the round of 8. And I also am going to move on Kyle Busch. I think Rowdy is having a great season so far. So I think he's going to be able to continue to push this and get himself to the next round. So, yet again, 2 drivers left to put in, 2 drivers left to eliminate. We got Buescher, Logano, Bubba, and Harvick left to go. Who am I keeping and who am I getting rid of? Well, I will move on one of these guys right now. I'm going to move on Chris Buescher. I think Buescher shows a ton of speed and a ton of potential. And man, like I said, momentum cannot be more on their side right now. And I feel like the 17 is going to be rolling, and it's going to be enough to roll them through the next 6 weeks. And I feel like the 17 team is just going to keep the momentum up enough to get them to the round of 8. Now in the round of 12. Who is the last guy I'm going to eliminate? Who's the last guy I'm going to move on? I got Logano, I got Bubba, and I got Harvick. Logano, Bubba, Harvick. I'm going to have to move on Joey Logano. I don't think Bubba's going to be able to run. I think Bubba's run ends right here. I don't think he's going to be strong enough to continue moving on, at least to the round of 8. Well, I do love what I've seen from the 23 team. It's not going to be enough to be a round of 8. The round of 12 into the round of 8 is a completely different beast, and the round of 8 itself is a completely different beast. And Kevin Harvick, as much as I would love to say in his final season he would make the championship 4 and have a chance to race for the title at Phoenix, I think his run ends in the round of 12. While I did say the reason he made the round of 12 is because SHR is putting all the resources into him in these playoffs, I also still don't think that's going to be enough to get him to the round of 8 this year, and I feel like it's going to be the end of Harvick's ride here. So, just like that, we had a championship 4. 4 spots with these drivers. Who is my picks to go to the championship 4? Let's first off look at the round of 8. Well, we got Las Vegas, we got Homestead, and we got Martinsville. When I think those 3 racetracks, there's one driver that immediately pops out to me that I immediately have to move on because of their, and it's a little bit of recency bias, but it's also because of how consistent they've been on this track in the next-gen car. So I'm moving on Kyle Larson to the Championship 4. Let's look at his recency. Well, let's look at the last time we've all raced at these tracks. Let's head back to Las Vegas earlier this year. Finished second there, where he finished second to William Byron. And if it wasn't for a late race caution, actually would have won that race. Then we look at Homestead last year. Oh, that's right. Larson just had the most domination performance. I have the car to prove it right here. Larson had an insane performance at Homestead last year, winning that race. And then what happened last time at Martinsville? Larson won that race as well, getting his first grandfather clock. I'm moving Larson on to the Championship 4. Now, who else am I going to be moving on to the Championship 4? Moving on Martin Truex Jr. I got to. I cannot say that Truex will not make the Championship 4. This is the type of the season that Truex has when he makes Championship 4s. A very consistent year, towards the top of the playoff standings, winning races. This is the type of season Martin Truex Jr. has when he makes the Championship 4, and I'm going to throw him in the Championship 4 yet again. Martin Truex Jr. will be there at Phoenix competing for a title. Now, I feel like I'm going to have to eliminate 2 drivers here to just even the field, to make it a little bit easier on myself. And the 2 drivers I'm going to eliminate Christopher Bell. As much as it does suck to say that, I feel like this is where his luck would run out a little bit. I feel like he's better than the guys I've eliminated, and that's the biggest reason he's going to make it this far. But I feel like this is where inconsistencies that have been plaguing him this season finally catch up to him in the round of 8 when it matters the most. I think this is where Bell gets knocked out. I'm also going to be eliminating Chris Buescher, which does really suck to say that I'm eliminating Chris Buescher. But, like I said, RFK, great recovery season and a great comeback. I do think they're the best Ford team right now. So it does suck to say Buescher's out, but I don't think they're good enough yet to make it to the Championship 4. Now, who are the last 2 drivers I'm going to throw in? Well, how about this? I want to throw in Rowdy Busch. I think Kyle Busch, in his first season with RCR, is going to take him to their first ever Championship 4 appearance. Wait. Second ever Championship 4 appearance. I forgot about Ryan Newman in 2014. Good thing I recalled that. Second ever Championship 4 appearance. I think this is the year for RCR to get back to the Championship 4 and try to compete for the championship. Last time they were here, Ryan Newman took him to the second place finish in 2014, almost winning RCR at championship. So I'm going to go with Kyle Busch to make the Championship 4. Now, who is my last driver to move on? And who are the drivers I'm eliminating? I got Byron, I got Hamlin, and I got Logano. I'm moving on. William Byron. I think Byron's been the best driver this season when it comes to getting things done in the right moments, finding speed when he needs to find speed and get that momentum set up, and I think that's going to be enough to get him to the Championship 4. We saw they hit their summer slump, and even their summer slump that they usually have in that 24 car was better than other summer slumps. They still found their way to victory lane twice in that summer slump at Atlanta and Watkins Glen. And now they're hitting the playoffs where that 24 team, despite not having a lot of playoff points, found themselves into the round of 8. Now, at going into the playoffs at least, they're tied for the most. I think William Byron's going to find himself into the Championship 4. Now, why did I eliminate Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano? Denny Hamlin, I feel like he's, besides Bell, with the drivers in the playoffs for Joe Gibbs Racing, I feel like he's been the most inconsistent of them as well. He shows a lot of speed some weeks. Look at Pocono, look at Richmond. But he does one thing different that Truex is not. And Hamlin has not been able to close the deals on some of these races, while Truex, majority of the time, has been able to. I'm eliminating Hamlin. Now I'm eliminating Joey Logano. Well, I just said Buescher, Buescher and RFK, I feel like are the best team in Ford. So why would I move another Ford above Buescher? I don't think Penske's had that much speed. And I think Logano, his veteran leadership will get himself to the round of 8. But past that, I don't think so. Not compared to these 4 guys I'm in the Championship 4. So my Championship 4 at that point now is Kyle Larson, Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Busch, and William Byron. Now, who are my picks to win the championship? Well, who's my pick? I don't have picks. I got one pick. Who is my pick to win the championship? Who am I going with? Man, this is a tough one. I feel like all 4 of these guys, just like last year, you can make a case for why all 4 of these guys could go into Phoenix and go win the championship. Now, I look at everything from every single angle. I keep in mind everything that I have to keep in mind of. Now, I have to make my pick. Winning the 2023 NASCAR Cup Series Championship, I am going with... This is tough. Larson has run really good here in the past at Phoenix. Won here in 2021. Was extremely fast this past spring. Truex has been one of the best 1-mile racers this year. Kyle Busch also won in a 1-mile racetrack this year at Gateway. Byron won this race earlier this year. I'm going with Martin Truex Jr. I think Martin Truex Jr. is going to come back and win his second NASCAR Cup Series title in a bounce-back season. Off a season where he was contemplating retirement at one point. Off a season where he missed the playoffs. I think he completely does a complete 180 and gets it done. Martin Truex Jr. is my pick to win the 2023 NASCAR Championship. I'm picking Martin Truex Jr. I'm locking it in. Nothing's going to change. I'm picking MTJ, which it does really suck for me to say this as well because I am a huge Larson fan. I love Hendrick Motorsports. I grew up loving Hendrick. I would love to have picked one of the Hendrick guys. I have to go Martin Truex Jr. I feel like Larson and Byron for Hendrick, at least, I feel like while Joe Gibbs Racing have gotten faster on these mile racetracks. Hendrick's got a little bit slower, and I feel like that's going to come and bite them. And also, I just feel like Truex has the edge. And Kyle Busch, while it's great that he's going to make this run, and I think he is going to make this run, I don't think he's going to have enough speed to get past MTJ when it matters most. Now, obviously, I could be all wrong, but here's the thing. I'm not wrong. I am correct. Martin Truex Jr. is going to win the championship. This is how the playoffs are going to play out. Nothing crazy is going to happen. It's NASCAR. Nothing crazy ever happens. Right? Right? No. Yeah, that's probably wrong. It's probably completely wrong. It's fine, though. This is my championship. I'm picking Martin Truex Jr. to win it. Now, I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Who do you guys think is going to win this year's championship? Leave your brackets down below, or at least just tell me your final four and your championship prediction in the comments down below. And if you have not already, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. And I'm excited to see how Darlington kicks off the playoffs tomorrow. If you guys are as excited as I am, then make sure to tune in, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody.